EAGLES, Eagles.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome into a Monday edition of Birds 365. It's Christmas week here on the show, and we will have a couple days off, but we will now react to Week 16 in the NFL. Eagles lose their first game, John, since September 29th.
Oh,
I was forgetting how to do losing shows, John.
Yeah.
I was forgetting.
They almost made it. They almost made it to 3 months without losing a football game. So that's pretty good. I think if you look at it from a larger perspective, which I know is going to be difficult for people today, I don't think it's the end of the world. Unfortunately, Detroit keeps winning. Minnesota keeps winning. So the number one seed is not officially closed, but it's so many things would have to happen. That's going to be very unlikely. But yeah, I mean, one loss in 3 months. And the way it unfolded, I can't get too upset over it, to be honest, which that might upset some people. But I think it's an easy one to turn the page on, considering all the things that happened. Number one, obviously, Jalen Hurts getting injured early in the game, less than 6 minutes into the game. And you're playing with a backup quarterback who I'm surprised how badly he's getting shit upon simply because what the hell do you expect from a backup quarterback who doesn't take reps? Yeah, who doesn't take reps during the week. He did enough to win the football game. And some uncharacteristic mistakes by big-time players, Devontae Smith most notably, but also Saquon Barkley. So that's stuff that typically isn't going to happen. And then I've been waiting for it all year, and it finally showed up, unfortunately, and that's busted coverages, because that's the one thing I've been talking about. Like, I was amazed, with all the young players and all the intricate zone coverages Philadelphia typically runs on a given day. Boy, you can count them on one hand, and yesterday they might have doubled them. So yeah, that stuff's going to pop up at times. And I'm actually more concerned about that, to be honest, than anything else, because then you start to say, all right, what's going on here? But the Devontae Smith drop, like, I can't be worried about that. He's a human being. He's going to catch that 99 times out of 100. Actually, maybe 100 out of 100, and that was 101. I mean, he doesn't drop balls like that, and he dropped it. I remember Justin Jefferson dropped a touchdown a couple weeks ago, and I said that's like a solar eclipse. Don't expect to see that again.
Right.
That's even more with Devontae and that type of catch. What can you do? Game's probably over. Now, not probably, it's definitely over if he catches that football. But also, other people can pick Devontae up. The special teams, terrible on kickoff coverage throughout the day. That was the one part of the game where really the weather affected the short kickoffs on both sides. And the Eagles had a really difficult time in kickoff coverage, and Sidney Brown added on to that with the illegal formation by leaving early. So they got good field position. With a minute 50, whatever, with one timeout, and they went down the field. The defense had plenty of time to stop them, and they didn't. So there's no law that says you can't pick up Devontae Smith. But yeah, those are my main thoughts about the game. And I don't give a shit about officiating. Please don't go down that route. Please, I beg of you all. I don't give a shit. Yes, some things didn't go your way. Also got 61 yards of pass interference calls on one freaking drive.
I said that on the postgame show. People didn't like that. I said I'm like, do you really believe that all those passes? I know he was handsy, but a couple of those calls.
I mean, even AJ and Marshawn are friends, same agent, blah, blah, blah. They like going against each other. AJ will be the first to tell you, it's like, all right, let us play. But, so last week, punches, blah, blah. I don't want to get into officiating. Is the game over legislated? I talk about it all the time. Of course it is. Right. Are the referees held accountable for shit? Of course they're not. But the legislation is the problem because everybody talks about CJ getting thrown out of the game. That's the fucking rule. If you get two unsportsmanlike conducts, it doesn't matter what they're for.
I know. Yeah.
You're out. The legislation is the problem. That's what you have a problem with. And CJ's got to be smarter than that. I don't give a shit if it's right, wrong, or indifferent. Nobody talks more trash than Brandon Graham. You ever see him? I mean, you can do it in a controlled fashion.
Right. There's a way to do it.
Yeah. So I don't even give 1 second of credence to that kind of stuff. But yeah, plenty of chances to put the game away. And by the way, I kind of wish they did because boy, those 2 4th down conversions when they took back the lead, those are a footnote now. And for all those people crapping on Kenny Pickett, he made a big time throw to Devontae Smith to convert 1 4th down.
Yep.
And then he found AJ Brown for the other. And AJ did get most, he had to extend it and get it on his own. So that's more of an AJ play. But Kenny's got to get him a ball in the big situation. And he did it. And it was a great drive. And they took the lead with a Jake Elliott field goal. His first, I think, 50-yarder. That was the 50-yarder, right?
Yeah, 50. It was 50 on the dot. Yep.
And that was a great drive. But now it's just a footnote. And people will forget how the aggression helped the Eagles. But I digress. There were some good stuff, but and the fact that you're in a position to win a game against a good team, by the way, not a great team, but a good team on the road. They did enough to win the game and couldn't get it done in the end.
I've rewatched the game, John, last night after the post-game show, and I honestly, I altered my thoughts a little bit. When you watch something in the moment, in the heat of the moment, and then you go on and instantly react to it, it's a little bit of a different feeling than I rewatched last night. And talk to me about this defense, John. Where are you at with them? I mean, they had 5 takeaways, but
I know it's amazing.
Listen, I think a lot of people were mad at Kenny Pickett, and I was on the post-game show. But the more I rewatched that game last night, and I'm like, geez, we still had every chance to win that game. Defense, all they had to do was keep him out of the end zone. Number 1 defense in the NFL. Jane Daniels did have 5 touchdown passes, John. They had a chance to win the game even after the drop. Just keep him out of the end zone, and they weren't able to do it. So on the same note where you can criticize Kenny Pickett, I think you can also look at that defense and say 5 takeaways is great, but they weren't the number 1 defense in the NFL yesterday.
No. And it's so strange. It was such a strange game because, let's be honest, you don't lose games where you get 5 turnovers. And they found a way to so they were able to have the big play capacity, but didn't do the grunt stuff that they're typically so good at. And again, the blown coverages to me were the story because you simply haven't seen them. And part of that late was CJ getting thrown out of the game because Tristan McMullen was involved. And there was a lot of confusion on the game-winning play on both sides. It ended up being backside. But if you rewatch it like Slay and N'Kobe and are trying to communicate something to Tristan McMullen, vice versa. So they were confused on that side. That didn't come into play, although it did from the standpoint of McMullen, didn't get over the top in cover 2. And then on the backside, which won the game, Zach Bond, they put him in conflict. Sometimes you got to give a hat tip to the other team. That was a nice job by Cliff Kingsbury. Evidently, they worked on it in practice during the week, that exact play in red zone, because Jaden Daniels talked about it. Jamison Crowder, they weren't talking to each other. They both brought it up. They ran it in practice. So that's one where you got hit. But then, Vic Fangio, who I've only said good things about, what are you playing cover 2 with the ball at the 10-yard line, 2 plays? What are you doing?
Yeah.
What
I thought, John, I thought Vic was very uncharacteristic yesterday. He started blitzing a lot versus Jaden, and I'm like, what? Why? Because he's a young quarterback.
Well,
then it's having a hard time beating your zone coverage, and you were so comfortable playing it and so successful playing it. Why go I mean, I don't know what the numbers were. It looked like to me that they brought the blitz more yesterday. Maybe they didn't, but that's what it felt like to me. Why change that up versus a
Well,
young
I'll tell you,
quarterback?
the one touchdown to McLaurin was they did an overload blitz. I know that. I think it was Zach Bone and Jalix Hunt, I
Yeah,
think. And
I'm
Jalix
pretty
was the
sure you're
one who
right on that.
hit, and Jalix was the one who hit Jaden Daniels. He stuck in there. Perfect throw, by the way. Great catch, over the shoulder catch.
Those are tough catches too, man. That
Yeah.
tracking
It's
that
Willie
ball up
Mays.
over,
Yeah.
yeah.
Willie Mays catch over the shoulder. And Quinn got beat pretty poorly. So for the people who talk about press coverage, yeah, maybe stop talking about press coverage. Maybe go back to the zone stuff, but and the off man stuff. But I'm with you, and maybe that impacts his decision late in the game. See, here's my thing. If you want to boil it down, like, I'm going to play mostly zone throughout the game if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, because that's what they do well. But in the red zone, that's where you pick it up. That's where you get aggressive, because you have the shorter amount of space. It's more condensed. You have the extra defender, which is the back line of the end zone, so you don't have to worry about some of those go routes, and you can get a little bit more aggressive. Like, I that's where I'm not playing cover two. I'm playing cover two on those to stop those go routes. I'm not
Right.
playing cover two to stop it in the red zone. But maybe because they got beat earlier, maybe that affected Vic's thought process in the game, and they just didn't play as well. I mean, if you look at the Olamide Zaccheaus touchdown, which we can get into the third receiver discussion, but that guy can make some freaking plays, and he has been
Good player, man. I love. Hey,
all
listen,
year.
Eagle fans won't like this. I like Olamide Zaccheaus. All right, he's a St.
He's
Joe's
a St.
prep
Joe's
grad.
prep
He
guy,
was,
yeah.
but I have a personal.
No,
connection with
I
him.
mean,
He was in one of our groups together, so I had a personal experience with him. I like the guy a lot. So.
He's good. He's a good dude. You should like him.
He's a
But
great dude. Absolutely great dude.
I'm not saying he's great, but he can make plays, as you saw.
Yeah.
But if you look at that play, it was all confusion. For some reason, Slay was supposed to come off the field. I have no reason why. And Kaylee Ringo was on the field. I have no reason why. And they got caught 12 men on the field. Slay didn't get off the field on time. And then to complicate matters even further, Ringo drops the coverage for whatever reason, and Olamide's wide open, and he's in the open field, and Reed misses a tackle, and bang, it's 49-yard touchdown. A lot of uncharacteristic stuff from that defense yesterday, mainly in the secondary.
John, one of my takeaways, and you tell me if I'm off base on this, because I might be, but it's just how I feel after rewatching that game last night. Jalen Hurts' effect on this team is not only offensive, but it's
huge,
defensive.
huge.
Defensive, where he moves chains, he controls the clock, and he allows the defense to be able to do what they do, or at least have less cracks at it. And yesterday, when Kenny Pickett at moments couldn't sustain a drive, or they couldn't move the chains, defense got tired. Defense got worn out. 5 takeaways, and they still gave up the most points since week 5, 6, 7? I mean, have they given up this many points all year, this defense?
Yeah, well, you got to go back to the Tampa game where were they, 30? Not this many.
I don't even think they gave up this many versus Tampa.
No, that was the closest. But yeah, I mean, he has a huge impact. I hope people realize that. It's just not. It's a unique. I always use that term. He's a very unique player. And you saw it early in the game. It looked like they were going to boat race him, because Washington had no idea how to handle the Eagles' running game with Jalen Hurts out there, because you have to account for Jalen Hurts. You can't just account for Saquon Barkley. And he was gouging them. I mean, the guy had what do you have? He had 3 carries for 41 yards, and he only played 6 minutes.
Yeah, and John, they committed so much to stopping the run that they bit when Kenny Pickett did a fake to Saquon, and then he took it. Did you see that? The defense almost bit on Kenny Pickett keeping the ball, and I'm like, they must have just.
Well, yeah, I mean, after Jalen left the game, they gave up the 68-yarder, but after Jalen left the game, you can feel more comfortable just completely selling out to stop
Exactly.
Saquon. So the impact there was great, and obviously, they completely shut down Saquon in the running game in the second half, and then you got to throw the ball, and Kenny's limited, and there's again, no reps and all that kind of stuff. But I think Kenny Pickett did enough to win the game. I firmly believe that. Um, but yeah, the impact of Jalen Hurts and the +1 he adds to the running game creates these mismatches for the Eagles. And when he left, that left. Um, doesn't mean, on the 68-yard touchdown, hey, if you load the box and you're undisciplined, bang, he's off and he's going to hit a home run.
Right.
But as long as you keep your gaps and be disciplined, there's nothing Saquon Barkley can do. There's no room. So I say it all the time. If you really want to stop anybody from Jim Brown on down, you can stop them. The problem is when Jalen Hurts is out there, all right, Jalen might keep it. He might throw. And again, there's inconsistency in his passing this year. We all know it. We all seen it. But that doesn't take away his impact on this team. And I hope everybody noticed his impact on this team yesterday, because when he left, they're not the same team. Now, that's the same of every starting quarterback, but even to a greater degree, I think, with the Eagles than most, not all, but most, because of how they play. And you almost have to shift back into a more conventional working of offense. And I think the Eagles did, but Kellen Moore did, but it took them a little bit of time to get there. And I thought one of Kellen Moore's best calls was the wheel route. And again, one of your best players drops the football.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? I mean, Devontae drops it, Saquon drops it. You can argue, by the way,
AJ.
You can argue, by the way, that they would have only lost one game if the players that are supposed to make plays make the plays they're supposed to make.
Two star players on offense, Saquon and Smitty.
Yeah. So, I got a tough time blaming that one on Kenny Pickett, but people don't like Kenny because he doesn't play. He's a backup, and they like the other players, so they're going to protect them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The one silver lining, I guess, for the great people here that we lost, that even though we lost, is we got a Saquon jersey to give away. He had 150 yards on the ground, so we'll do that today. We're going to do that today on the show, okay? So stay tuned, everybody. Get your memberships in if you're not a member already, and I will pull the Saquon winner today after the show. So appreciate everybody for doing it. Hit that like button on the show this morning. John, this team was an undisciplined football team yesterday, and I point to the head coach. What I also think about is I think back to last week when the head coach was not allowed to criticize his star defensive tackle for a stupid play in game. And I think I think that stuff matters, and that seeps over. And you had an undisciplined team yesterday, and I thought that was stupid of Clint Hurt to do last week, and I think it's even more justified to say now after you had some of the same stuff happen yesterday. Very undisciplined football team yesterday, Johnny Mac.
Well, they were. Nick used the term sloppy. I'm going to push back on what Clint Hurt already yelled at Jalen Carter, and Clint Hurt was trying to say, I got it. I got it.
Yeah, but we got to let the coach, John, the head coach is the head coach. I mean,
well, you're trying to. I get, again, there's context to it. So what Clint Hurt is trying to do is saying, I already ripped him a new one. Don't rip him a new one again. You're trying not to lose the player. There's a bunch of things to managing people. We talk about Jalen Carter. He's very young. He's still got room to mature. Who knows how he's going to handle that? So
yeah, I understand that.
Clint was trying to do the best in this situation. Like, I already reamed him out. You don't need to ream him out again. I handled it. And it looked bad on TV because there's no context. But I don't think it's nearly what some people think it is. That's all I'm trying to say. As far as the undisciplined, the sloppy stuff, yes, yeah, you can't do it. Now, there's, Jalen Carter's unsportsmanlike. A guy flopped, I think it was Sam Cosme, very smart player. I think it was Sam. I'm not positive, but and he took a chance. Like, you got to be smarter than that. Don't give the guy the opportunity. Don't give the guy the. And we talked about CJ. CJ. There's some good to it. There's some bad to it.
Got to manage it. Yep, got to manage it.
He was that way in New Orleans. He was that way here the first time. He's that way in Detroit, and he's that way here again. He's going to talk his trash. Now, here's the thing. He gets the first call. It's got to be implemented. And I'm sure it was. Christian Parker, I'm sure, told him, look, you can't get another one or you're going to get tossed. You got to reinforce that. Do I know for 100% they reinforced that? No. But, if they did, that's on them. But you got to reinforce that. They changed that rule a couple of years ago. If you get 2, you're out. Doesn't matter what you're doing. I hear a lot of people like that. I hear a lot of people say, oh, you got to be, you got to know he's got one from an official. Stop blaming the damn officials. Again, if you want to blame the legislation, I'm with you, But if you get 2 of them, you're out. They're not picking on CJ Gardner-Johnson. If anybody around the league got 2 of them, they're eliminated. They're dismissed from the game. That's the rule. So when you get the first one, you got to have enough self-awareness to say, all right, today I got to tone it down, and then you could start over the next.
Especially when you're starting quarterback is out. Like, we need you on the field, dude.
Yeah. So, that's how I took. But yeah, they were very sloppy as a whole, not just the penalties. The penalties were bad. I brought to Sidney Brown. What are you doing leaving early on the final kickoff?
I know.
You haven't, adding 5 yards in that situation when they have one timeout might not seem like a big thing, but McCaffrey had another good return, and you tack 5 yards onto it. So they were sloppy throughout. And again, all the blown coverages, which we had not seen all year, reared their ugly head. And I'm surprised it took this long. But when you play this style of defense, occasionally you're going to get blown coverages. The fact that they haven't is the anomaly. And hopefully it doesn't continue.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. Good breakdown of the game so far. We got a couple super chats we'll get to. Appreciate you, James Carver and Prince Swayze, for you guys checking in. Appreciate everybody in the chat this morning. Don't forget to hit that like button for us and subscribe to the JAKIB Sports YouTube channel if you're not already. About 40% of our audience watches but isn't subscribed. It doesn't cost a penny. All you got to do is click that little button that says subscribe, and you'll be subscribed to the channel. Help us keep moving. We busted over 50,000 subscribers. So big thanks to everybody who watches the content. We appreciate you guys. Let's get to some supers here. James Carver with $20. James, we appreciate that, brother. He said the problem with the rule of taunting is the way it's written allows for way too much subjectivity by the refs. CJ should control himself, but also hard not to say anything when you're hit and there's not even a penalty on the punch.
Yeah, and I hope people realize you're complaining about the legislation, which I'm fine with. I talk about it all the time. They put too much on these guys' plate, but the bottom line is if you get 2, you're thrown out. So when you get the first one, you got to be a little bit more vigilant about keeping control. It's just what it is. That's the rule. I don't like the rule either. I think, you could have 4 taunting plays and then let the team take care of it and cut the guy, Shouldn't throw him out of the game for that. But that's the rule. I don't like the rule. I don't think anybody likes the rule. Why did they make the rule? I don't know. Why they make any rule? Stupid rule. But it is what it is. And complaining about it isn't going to help anything. I'm a big control what you can control guy. What you can control is your own behavior. You can't control if Sean Smith got on the wrong side of the bed. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't even know if he called it. I don't want to blame Sean, but he's the crew chief.
Sean catching strays.
Yeah. I mean, control what you can control as the player. And if you don't mouth off, you're not getting thrown out of the game. Even if the official called it's got a short trigger for whatever reason. Even if the official hates the Philadelphia Eagles, which isn't the case, but nonetheless, control what you can control. Can't control the NFL's legislation. That's the rule. Everybody's dealing with that same rule in every game they played yesterday. Only one guy got thrown out. I don't know if that's true, but
the only thing I would question
I would bet it's true. Because it
rarely
rarely happens.
There, John, is look, I'm not gonna absolve CJ of his blame. I do think he's got to be able to understand the moment there in the situation, but it looked like he was just talking, and there was a video of him getting literally punched to the point where his helmet came off, and that wasn't flagged, but what CJ said was flagged. And I'm like, well, what's the penalty? Talking or actually punching somebody in the head? Like, I didn't understand that. And I'm not
this is
I don't understand.
This is and here's the problem too, because they do these stupid poll reports after the game where you can't ask, only one person can ask the referee, with Sean Smith, questions, and it was not satisfying. It never is, but there's no follow-up. There's no other reporters to maybe add into.
I didn't know that. There's only one question basically allowed.
Well, no, there's only one reporter, that gets to ask, and generally, but yeah, it's only going to be 2 or 3 questions. But if there were other reporters, maybe something's missed and they can add to it, and it's just officials don't have a lot of accountability. That part is completely true. All right, but here's the thing: to the great, and I give him tremendous credit. At NFL Ref Stats 1, follows referee and referees and their tendencies. And by the way, so do the Eagles. John Ferrari, the assistant GM, has a meeting with the team every Saturday, just like game planning for teams. The Eagles game plan for officials, and what that means is they take a look at the crew's history and what they're calling and what they tend to call. And all that kind of stuff in their history, and they alert the team to what place an emphasis on. Another way the Eagles try to win outside the margins. So, Sean Smith's career, divisional home teams are 10-24-1 against the spread. I don't want to get into gambling stuff, but Eagles were 4-0 all time with Sean Smith. What did he wake up? Oh, I hate the Eagles today. Now, I don't even think that's relevant, because the Eagles are good and they win most of their games. So I would say to Commanders fans who would bitch if they lost the game, I'd say the same thing. But to say, all right, they've had success with this guy, and all of a sudden he decided, hey, I'm going to screw the Eagles today. I mean, that's all. Stop with that shit. That's all. And I'm not blaming James. James didn't say that. But to my original point to James, control what you can control. And what CJ can control is to get out of the city. Are they going to miss shit? Hey, Washington got the flags when Eagles were throwing, not Washington, Pittsburgh got the flags when the Eagles were throwing punches last week. It's what they see. Or in this case, what they hear, evidently. And should they see somebody getting their helmet? Yes. How many face masks in the pocket have they missed this year that we see? The quarterback getting ripped down by his face mask.
Right.
No call. Yeah. All right. It happens. Good teams persevere.
It's a little odd. Look, I get it. I'm with you where it's like, I think officiating sucks across the whole NFL. I'm not going to blame it, but the official is right there. Like, did CJ say something egregious that he flagged him and not the guy who
but here's the
actually
problem.
like leveled CJ's helmet off his head? I didn't understand that.
Really. My guess, and again, it's just here's the problem: the officials are not allowed. Not only are they not accountable to anything like coaches and players and all that? Like I heard a criticism from an Eagles official after the game. These guys should be held accountable. And I said, I agree. I agree. Everybody should be held accountable. And they're not. Um, and they're not allowed to say certain things. Like, what did CJ say? They're not allowed to say. You know, I think it was Dynamic Brown.
Yeah, De'Ami Brown.
Yeah.
Yep.
Clearly he said something that pissed off Dynamic. I don't know what it was. If they're allowed to say it and we didn't have to put our baby ears on, maybe people would understand better. But they're not. So I can't. But as an Eagles player, I can't control any of that. So that's why it's the biggest cliche in the NFL. All you can do is handle your own business, if you want a different way to say it. Control what you can control and don't put the official in the position to hurt your team. And that's, I guarantee, the message CJ will get from the coaching staff.
A couple more super chats to read here before we get to Jeff Kerr. Jeff, what's going on, man? We'll get to you in just a second. Appreciate you getting up with us this morning, brother. James followed up real quick on this super. I'll read it because it was about what we just read. He said, the subjectivity aspect of my prior super was, and based on assumption of a tweet from last night, was correct, that CJ admitted to cussing and the player and included racial words. I hate racial words used, but many use it. Yeah, certainly. I'm sure they do in the NFL. I don't know. I didn't see that, James.
I didn't see it either, but he said something that pissed off Brown pretty significantly.
He definitely said something. No doubt about that. James followed up, or one other super chat. James, thank you, man. Appreciate your support. Several of those were not cover 2. They were cover 6, cover 9, but the rotation seemed to be opposite under relative to the safety cornerback. The linebackers seem to be off, which is affected by CJ leaving, but also on the linebackers and Reed's communication. It did go to shit, John, when CJ left in terms of the back end and the communication.
Well, the touchdown play was cover 2. Absolutely cover 2. And I don't understand it because of the lack of.
You're talking about the last second touchdown, right?
Yeah, the last touchdown. That was flat out cover 2. No doubt about it. Split safeties, linebacker taking the route up the seam, and Kingsbury had a nice play because he put Zach Bond in conflict, and Zach thought, and I think the bigger problem, Reed took responsibility for it because he's Reed Blankenship and he's the leader of the secondary, but I think it was Tristan's fault. Tristan should have been over more. And Zach thought he would have that coverage on the back end. So he took the underneath receiver, who was Zach Ertz, I believe, that put him in conflict. But because Tristan wasn't in position, even if he didn't and kept riding with Jamison Crowder, then Ertz would have been open at the goal line and likely for a touchdown. So it was hit and miss. It was a good play call. They put the Eagles in conflict. A lot of stuff already out there. I saw Acho did it. Baldinger did it. So people can watch it if they want. But yeah, it was a strange defensive call to me too. And too much time. I would have put Jane Daniels is great. I talked about him last week. People are shitting on me. All right. Feel free to shit on me again. Guy
that was one of my takeaways from the rewatch. He's pretty incredible.
He's pretty good. That was a hell of a throw, but he's not the most consistent guy in the world as a rookie. You'll see the spectacular throw, and then you'll see a bad throw, and it's generally when he's getting hurried, like most young quarterbacks. So in that short space, I would have gotten more aggressive. And I rarely criticize Vic Fangio, but I would have gotten way more aggressive.
Yep. One more here, and then we'll get to Jeff Kerr. Prince says CJ going out was significant, but McMullen struggled with communication, costing us 2 touchdowns. He took a bad angle in Jaden's run. He was bad. McMullen didn't look very good.
Yeah, he didn't have a good game. He didn't have a good game. No, and he was part of the issue, certainly with communication. I think that was a big part of it. And that's why I don't think a lot of people are going to notice because it was on the back end of the play, but I thought it was the key part. And if you watch it before the play, N'Kobe and Slayer trying to impart something for him. And I don't think he was on the same page of where he should have been. But that's, Reed took responsibility for it. But I think that's...
Of course Reed did.
Yeah.
It's good leadership by Reed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So... But yeah, I mean, you lose a good player and you got to put a backup in there. And it's one thing when that happens at quarterback with Jalen Hurts because Jalen got hurt. It's another when you're getting thrown out of the game.
Right. Let's get to our commercial break. Josh Herman checked in. He said, rewatched the game last night. Thought KP played fine. Just sucks when you beat yourself. Lack of focus all around. Blame coaching. Josh, I agree, man. I rewatched the game, Josh, and I thought I said to myself, well, I was a little hard on Kenny Pickett on the postgame show. I thought he did enough to win the game. I was a little hard on him on the postgame show, and I'll admit that. Maybe, can't expect starter play from a backup. I think he did what he needed to do and made a couple plays to win the game. Josh, appreciate you checking in. James Carver, thank you, man, for your support this morning. 3 big super chats. And Prince, appreciate you guys. And thanks, everybody in the chat. Don't forget, we'll be giving away the Saquon Barkley jersey today. I'll do that after the show today. So if you're not a member, get your memberships in. When you're a member on JAKIB, you'll be eligible to win any of our giveaways. And I got a lot of stuff to give away. So we'll be doing all that over the course of the next couple days and weeks here on JAKIB Sports. So appreciate you guys. Let's get to our commercial break right now. Before I do that, I'll tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. Use that promo code on your screen. It's YouTube150. It gives you a 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit. And you get 125% on your second and third deposit. So go to betus.com.pa, use that promo code and deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Appreciate them for sponsoring the 2-hour show. We'll be right back with Birds 365. Jeff Kerr will be joining us. Stay tuned, everybody.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.